Hi everyone and welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. In this episode, we continue with our grand final fortnight frenzy thingy, and we are headed across to Western Australia to review the grand final of the Atomic Western Australian Bream Series, which was held on the Blackwood River at Augusta on the 7th and 8th of December in 2024. So basically this season finished exactly where it started way back in March. Anyway, let's roll the intros. I'll go through a few things and then we'll get into it. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. This is where you need to be every Tuesday to find out all the latest tips and tricks to help you target bream on lures. You'll get to hear from some of Australia's elite bream competition anglers and see how they were able to achieve their results in competitions around the country. Now, here's your host, the 2019 Hobie Kayak Fishing World Champion, Andrew Deeth.
Well, there you go. All the Western Australian guys out there, I had a good day out in the water today. So as I'm recording this, it's a Sunday night. Hopefully I'm going to get this out on the Wednesday, but we'll see. In any case, out on the water today with none other than Carl State. He's left you guys come over here and was gracious enough to take me out on his boat to show me a few tips and tricks about the Lowrance sounders and active target. Definitely showed me some things I didn't know and gave me a better understanding of how to use the active target and what I'm looking for. So I look forward to getting out in the kayak and giving that a much better run over the coming weeks. We didn't catch a lot of fish, actually. Well, Carl caught more than me anyway. Included one fish of probably just over a kilo and a bit. So all in all, a good day out. All right. In other news, if you're headed down to BAM or Gippsland Lakes, now last week in the collective, we did a Zoom with a whole bunch of people and we talked specifically about the Gippsland system and where you might be able to go to catch fish. And I got to tell you, that place is enormous with so many different options. So what we did is we had some of the locals down there in the collective. So if you're interested in having a look at that, you need to head over to breamfishingproject.supercast.com, sign yourself up, and then you'll have access to not only that Zoom, but all of them. So in particular, in this next week or so, before you guys head down to Gippsland Lakes, it's well worth having a look, and it'll give you some ideas of where you might go, which will in turn tell you what lures to take. So if that interests you, like I said, breamfishingproject.supercast.com, sign yourself up, head over to Supercast, and it's all there. Pretty much unedited, exactly as it came out. So there you go. All right, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this one. So this was held back on the 7th and 8th of December in 2024. And on the Saturday, we had 26 in the fish activity wheel, a minor bite period at 9:42 through to 11:12. High tide was at 1:01 a.m. at 0.91 and low tide was at 12:35 p.m. at 0.32. So these are these funky tides that they get over there that just confuse me. Sunday, it dropped down, so a lower in the fish activity wheel of just 12. Major bite period at 4:41 through to 7:11. A minor bite period at 10:52 a.m. through to 12:22 p.m. High tide was at 2 a.m. at 0.82 with a low tide at 12:49 p.m. at 0.39. All right, so there you have it. So there's just one more thing before we head over to the angler interviews. Okay, so this is one for all you fishing enthusiasts. Zeus Tackle, located at 18/1-15 Murray Street, Camden. This isn't just another tackle shop. It's your essential hub for all things fishing. At Zeus Tackle, they are driven by a passion to ensure that you have the best experience on the water, no matter whether you're chasing freshwater bass or battling saltwater giants. Their store offers not only top-notch gear, but also expert advice and support to help both newcomers and seasoned anglers excel in their fishing pursuits. From premium tips to hands-on guidance, their goal is to enhance your fishing game in every possible way. So mark your calendars, get your calendar out, mark it March 21, 2025 for the grand opening day. So there'll be a few sausages there apparently, and you can have a great time checking out all the new stock. So stay tuned on social media for all updates and some special surprises they have in store. Follow at Zeus Tackle and on Instagram at zeustackle.com.au. Remember, at Zeus Tackle, every cast counts And we're here to ensure that you cast with confidence. Visit them at 18-1 to 15 Murray Street, Camden, and gear up for the best fishing trips of your life. Okay, so first up in a third position, we have Team B1 and B2. They dropped 4 fish for 2.32 on the Saturday, backed it up with a slightly bigger bag with 4 fish for 2.54 kilos and 4.86 kilos in total for their 8 fish, which included the big bream for the Sunday. I have, for the first time, Jenny Gardner, and I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Joseph Gardner. Welcome, guys.
Cheers, Andrew.
Yeah, good to meet you, Andrew.
Good to see you both on. Like we were saying before, it is, I think the father and son teams is absolutely fantastic. It's good to see people out. And I think the mother and son team is even better. How about that?
I think so too.
Yeah. I think, look, getting a chance to spend time on the water and have a kind of, I guess, a common goal is got to be a good thing. So
Definitely.
And Jenny, I'm hearing that you might be on a new kayak at the moment or coming up.
Yes, very lucky about that one. I've got a Lynx at the moment. Yeah, that's all going well.
Yeah, they're a great kayak and just something totally different. I think Joseph said that he got to borrow one throughout the Hobie series and was pretty much sold after that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you enjoyed it, Joseph.
Yeah. The Lynx was awesome. I think I've said it a few times now, but Mum can stand up in it, which is something.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, let's get round to it. So, at Swan River, you had a 2-week pre-fish ban. What did you guys do in terms of preparation? Did you get down there to have a look around or what happened there?
Well, I was over east for most of that, so I didn't get to actually have any time to head down there. And Mum, you probably just sat at home and sorted your fishing gear out.
Basically it, yep.
Yeah, so no real pre-fish. With our comps as well, unlike the ABTs, there's no pre-fish the day before it either. So going in a bit blind come comp day.
Yep. Okay. All right. So then, what was your plan?
Pretty much just try a milk run of spots and see what worked. Fortunately, the first spot we got to, there was just fish stacked pretty much every cast. The more you could cast, the more fish you catch. It was just ridiculous.
Wow. All right. Let's get into that because that sounds pretty cool. Tell us about how Saturday played out.
So we headed downriver, cut across a flat and full noise across the flat. I could just see fish darting everywhere as we shot across. So pulled up, started fishing. I think I was throwing a brim prawn to start with. We probably got a bag, probably 15 minutes, just one after the other. Mum's got a task at the back of the boat sometimes. So
I've got a couple.
yeah. I flip them into the boat and thankfully Mum chucks them into the live well.
I don't think I got a chance to fish the first 15 minutes. I was too busy measuring him and chucking him in the well. So I was keen to get on the water myself.
Definitely. And what do you guys do? Do you cull, whether the cull tag or do you put them in different, how do you manage your fish?
So in the boat ones, the kayak's a bit different. I usually weigh them in the kayaks. In the boat, Mum usually just measures them by fork, puts the fork length in, and then we've got a balance beam when they're getting a bit close. It's easier to do that in the boat than it is the kayak. So the kayak, I like weighing them, but in the boat, it's easy just to use the balance beam quickly.
Perfect. All right. And in that first little flurry, was there anything decent or are they just sort of bag fish?
I think we had a 30 fork followed by like a 31 fork and then a bunch of small ones. And then we just slowly upgraded from like 26 tip to 27 tip, 28 tip, 29 tip, all the way up until eventually we got a bag that were all 28 fork plus. And then we would have caught 15 to 20, 28 forks, sort of one after the other almost all day.
Wow. And in terms of lures and what have you and structure, so were you basically on the flats or were you in a channel or?
Yeah, it's a mix of a flat, reed banks, some tea trees and snags, and then also sort of your deeper channels as well. So a bit of everything. I only threw 2 lures, so the brim prawn to start, and then pretty much all the fish in the bag eventually came on the pygmy mussel. So, which was a standout on the second day. I pretty much mainly threw that on the second day.
Okay. All right. Let's go back into the brim prawn. Tell us about how you were fishing that.
So that's just unweighted on a decoy worm 5 hook, a 1.0. which I picked up actually the last 3 packs that Adam had when I was over east.
Nice. Did you get into the shop?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't manage to swing by, but Mark was popping by, so he picked them up for me.
Very good. Now, it sounds like obviously there was a lot of fish. Was it just a case of just throwing it out, working it back a little bit, letting it drop and load up?
Pretty much. Like you cast it out and the line would move straight away.
Yeah,
like
right.
you're talking like you would cast out and it would sink all of 5 centimetres and you'd have a fish on and you just hope it's bigger than the last.
Wow. Wow, that's an insane session. And at what point did you swap over to the pygmy mussel?
When we got into more of the channel,
Mhm.
I could see them all digging sort of out a little bit deeper. So I switched over to the pygmy mussel and just started throwing that. That was probably only half an hour, 45 minutes into the session that I switched over and then fished that for most of the day. Mum fishes a little bit different off the back. So what ones were you using, Mum?
I stuck with the dial wave for probably most of the day and found that, the fish attacking that and catching all my fish on that one lure the most of the day.
Righto. And what jig head and what sort of weight did you have that tied on with?
That was a 112, probably size 2 heavy.
Okay.
Seemed to have a good success with that, so I stuck with that.
Yeah, that's interesting because you've got, from the front of the boat, you've got unweighted, and in the back you've got a reasonably heavy jig head, obviously slamming into the bottom a little bit.
Yeah, we seem between the two of us mix things up, so we got it covered sort of between us, yeah.
Yeah, nice. And do you have a favourite colour at the moment?
Oh, my one's motor oil.
Fair enough.
You had one tied on every one of your rods.
I did. I did.
Nice. And did you stay with the 112th or did you mix that up throughout the day?
I stayed with the 112.
The wind was terrible as well. That's probably the worst wind I fished in down there. Just throughout the whole 2 days, the wind was, I haven't actually fished down there, down the front at least, while the wind's been that bad.
Yeah.
Especially heading further down. Like we fished that first little bit and then we went further down into town and up into West Bay and also North Bay. And it was the same all through there. Like fish just loaded by the thousands at every bank we stopped at. But the wind was just howling. So it was almost impossible to fish. But yeah, you're catching a fish every cast almost.
Wow. That's absolutely insane. And then you've just come back over from over east where it's much more challenging to catch that sort of volume of fish.
Yeah, definitely. So it was nice actually to come back. The Blackwood hasn't fished like that for pretty much all year. So to have it like that down there was actually really quite fun.
Yeah, very nice. All right. Just one more thing before we move off to Saturday. Did you miss any? Did you drop any ones that you went, oh no?
Yeah, towards the end of the day, back around the launch spot, so around Malloy, we would have caught, it was the same thing. Probably not every cast, but every 5 or 6 casts, I'd catch a fish, and that was I went back to a Bream prawn in the tea trees, and I went through 2 packets of those worm hooks.
Yeah, right.
So, and they were all to fish. Whether or not they were big ones, you never really know with some of them. But yeah, there was just bust off after bust off.
Wow. With your 2.32, whereabouts were you guys overnight?
I think that had us in 7th.
Okay.
Which was a bit of an improvement from heading off 15th on the first day. So it's good.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. So leading into the Sunday, so you said it was windy all weekend. So did that continue for you, like straight up?
Yeah, straight up. So on the Sunday, we did the sort of same plan. So headed straight down. I think it was same thing, probably within 5 or 6 casts. We had a bag and they were all that sort of 26 to 27 fork. I think, Mum, you had one early as well that was 28 fork.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then pretty much throughout the day, just upgraded the whole way through. The big bream probably came about mid-morning, early morning, and that was on pygmy mussel as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. And with the pygmy mussel, how are you fishing it?
So we had quite a fast run-out tide. It's probably one of the faster run-outs we've seen. I'm not sure if there was a bit of a storm surge with the wind that came in and then it filled it up and then it was just a much faster run-out. So the pygmy mussel works when you've got the heavy flow because then it's just naturally bouncing around the bottom. You can just cast it and let it flow through the current.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all I was doing, was casting it and letting it just bounce down, giving it a few tiny little twitches without winding the handle.
Yeah.
And then you just load up.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's obviously a huge volume of fish there. They'd be fighting over it, I can imagine.
Yeah. It's a hard one because you feel one and you go to load up, but you don't want to load up because you know it's a little one.
Yeah.
So you want to sort of leave it there a little bit longer to hope that the big one comes and eats it. So just the volume of fish down there was ridiculous. Everywhere we went, all the way, like we even went down to East Augusta right down the front, and they were stacked through there as well, all through West Bay, all through North Bay, and then coming back, even in the main channel, that driving back, you could see them all in there as well.
Wow, that is insane. You got any thoughts on why that would be the case, why there'd be such a volume in there?
I think the rain that they've had has finally rejigged the system. So it hasn't had enough rain over the last, pretty much this whole year. And I think that a lot of the fish earlier this year were pushed right up into the top of the system.
Okay.
So way, way up past Alexander Bridge, just miles up. And I think finally they've come back down. So I think that's all it is. I don't think the number of fish sort of left the system. I think that they just moved way, way upriver and have finally come back down.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, very cool. All right. And Jenny, did you continue with the wave minnow or did you swap over to the mussel?
No, I stuck with the wave minnow and, continued to catch fish.
Yeah, okay.
Throughout the second day, so it was all good.
I think you got that one good one towards the end. Mum got a 30-forker that ended up in the bag.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so I did contribute to the final weigh-in this time.
It always contributes, even if it's netting the fish.
That's
it.
Team effort. Doesn't matter who catches them. Well, you're 200 grams ahead of Greg and Fred. Yeah, it could have made a difference.
Yeah, it was amazing what just one fish really changes. Like if we had just one more of those 850s, you'd probably take it out. So
that's right.
Especially on the Blackwood, there's a lot of those similar size fish around that 28 to 31 fork, and it's just who gets that one big one that really makes a difference.
Yeah, 100%. And what was the condition of the fish? Were they skinny or?
They were super skinny and not tall. I found they were long but not tall.
Okay.
Like coming back from over east where the yellows in Lake Mac especially, they were really tall.
Yeah, okay.
Like big heads on them, where the ones on the wood were real skinny and really not tall at all. Like I think Jared weighed in one that was like 41 tip it wasn't very heavy at all when they weighed that in. I think, and Paul's one at 880, even that big Bream on day one, I think that was a 40 tip.
Yeah, right.
Well,
should have been better.
And I think Jared's one, that was like 820 and still a 41 tip. So really poor condition fish.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And while I think of it, mate, congratulations on your second day bag at the ABT Grand Final. That was a cracker.
Oh, not the second day. Second day is when I only weighed in 3.
Third day.
Don't remind me about the second day.
The second day. It's terrible, mate. What are you thinking? The third day. The last day.
The big one on that last day was awesome. That came at like 1:30 right at the end.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, mate, cracking bag. All right. In terms of the fishing, what were you guys using in terms of rods, reels, lines, leader?
So I still run, I've had JML rods for probably 7-8 years now. So I still run a bunch of those. They're all the exact same. And then I use I think I've got the one 3,000 size exist. So I use that for brim prawns with 8 pound or 10 pound. And then everything else is 2,500 exists and certates. And then Mum runs, what ones do you run, Mum?
I've just got the 3 TT rods that I use and run the 3 Daiwa reels, which 1 certate and 2 TD soles on that.
Yeah, the old TD soles, they're not too bad, those ones. So
absolutely. And quick question with the 3,000, is that just for line pickup?
Yeah, just speed.
Just speed.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Is there anything else we need to cover before we move off the fishing?
I don't think so. It was a pretty stock standard weekend on the Blackwood, sort of how I fished it every comp last year. It worked pretty much the exact same. which it hasn't done this year. The few comps we've had there, it's been a real grind with not many fish. The weekend gone by was really fun. Even like we were catching one after the other, mum as well. So just to have it like that, it was, heaps of fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of third place in a grand final, what did you guys get to take home?
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff. What did we get? We got $600 cash. Then we've got 2 big swags, so sleeping bag swags, and also a camp cooker as well. So Getaway Outdoors threw in a bunch of more useful, I guess, prizes this time around rather than a lot of the sponsor gear that we've had in the past. So there's a bunch of camping stuff that they've thrown in, and then the cash is always good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then Big Bream, I think, was $250 each day, so we got $250 for that.
Nice. That's a nice win as well.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, look, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone or any people you'd like to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
I'd like to thank Mum for jumping on board every comp and also jumping on the podcast.
Yeah.
She's a bit hesitant the first couple times I asked, so nice to have her on.
100%. No, it was great to have you on. I like it.
I think also Alex and Ben, they've got that place sussed fishing up the ski area. So probably a big congratulations to them for taking it out. I think they won it a couple of years ago as well, doing the exact same thing. So just really consistent fishing the same zones.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, I reckon that's fantastic, guys. Congratulations again. And I'm sure I'm going to talk to you, hopefully both, next year.
Hopefully.
Yeah, sounds good.
Fishing done for a year.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Thank you, guys.
Easy.
All right, thanks for having
Andrew.
us. See you, Andrew.
Okay, if you're in the market for a new fishing kayak or looking to make some upgrades to your existing kayak or possibly looking at fishing kayak fishing tournaments, then HWS is the place to go. They have a full range of Hobie kayaks and stock the latest kayak accessories and are really dialed in when it comes to the best kayak fishing setup for the casual fisher and the tournament angler. hws.com.au, online or in store at the shop 3/638 Pacific Highway, Belmont. James offers free delivery on Hobie kayaks across all Greater Sydney, Central Coast and Hunter. Okay, so not only Hobie kayaks, but they also offer a bunch of accessories. And the beautiful thing about this is with the magic of the internet and what have you, you can send this stuff all around the country. So one of the things that caught my eye in the kayak fishing accessories is the anchoring and drifting. If you listen to the show a bit, definitely love my drift chutes. James has 2 here to offer. So he's got the Hobie kayak drift chute. So I've used this one. It's quite a good one in as much that it's got a bit of flotation in the top of it. So it always sits in the same position as well as a bit of lead weight in the bottom to hold that down. So that's a great drift chute. They've also, I see they've got the Lovick drift chute XL, which is obviously out of Scott Lovick Hobie. And being a bigger drift chute, it'd probably be the one I would prefer. Definitely for me in terms of drift chutes, bigger is better. As well as if you just want some simple things like anchors or anchor trolleys, so that's the set of ropes that runs down the side of your kayak to change the position of where the drift chute or anchor pulls from, James will set you up with those. So check it out, hws.com.au. Okay, so up next in second place, we have Team Tackle West Oryx. They dropped 4 fish for 2.6 kilos even on the Saturday, backed it up on the Sunday with 2 fish for 2.340, giving them a total of 4.94. And second place, with me, I have Jared Stephens and Barry Brownrigg. Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us.
Hey, DC, thanks for having us.
No worries at all. It's good to have you on. It's a nice little result there. Nearly cracking the 5 kilos, which is a nice little mark.
Yeah, super happy with the result. Typically sort of up and around there in the tournaments on the Blackwood, but to get in that second position's pretty stoked with that.
Definitely. And realistically, just a reasonable up from first place, which is a good result.
Yeah, it's always hard getting into that system and trying to top Alex and Ben. Those guys have just got some tricks up their sleeve that you can't compete with, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, equally to beat Joseph and Jenny is a pretty good run as well, because they I've already done their interview and they had a fantastic day. fantastic weekend.
Yeah, they always have good results on that system as well. Like when Joey's running around throwing his brim prawns, which has now been swapped out for his little pygmy muss, and he does some serious damage.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get into it. So in terms of pre-fishing, what did you guys get up to? Did you get down there and have a look around leading up to it?
I'd done a couple of trips down, starting from about 6 weeks out. And then as it got a bit closer to the comp, I actually didn't spend much time down there with a 2-week ban. So much can change. So my pre-fishes weren't actually very good, and everywhere we ended up fishing in the tournament, I didn't even pre-fish. So ended up fishing a lot further up than where I'd pre-fished. So I spent a lot of time downstream and, didn't really find anything that filled me with confidence on where I'd go and hit in the tournament. And then I pushed a little bit further to the ski area where traditionally that's where the comps are won, but didn't really spend too much time fishing there in the tournament either. It was just all upstream.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, the pre-fish, because it's 2 weeks out. I've found that in years gone by I've pre-fished and run to the banks that I thought they were on, that I had a good success on, and they weren't even there. It was just cricket. So Jared and I go down on the 23rd of November, but a couple of things came up and we didn't go. And in hindsight, it's probably not a bad move.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So given all that, what did you guys plan to do on the weekend, on the Saturday? What was your game plan?
It was a bit all over the place, really. We didn't have a game plan until we're sitting in the boat waiting to have the live well checked. And then we just sort of took off up towards the ski area and sort of just kept going. And then we saw a bank that we'd fished before and done pretty well on. And we pulled in on that bank. And I think that initial bank, so I was throwing a vibe and got a couple 26 and a halves in the boat, and pulled a 30, 32 and then a 34. And then Jared did a couple upgrades on the 26s. We threw them out and we had our bag. I think it was 8:30, wasn't it, Jared?
Yeah, spot on, and nailed exactly how we decided to go upstream. The start of this tournament, typically it's just a line and everyone goes, but they had a designated yellow marker that you had to kind of go around just to create some order and put some safety component into that start. And it was literally, Baz, if I go around this marker, we're going to go downstream, and if I keep the boat pointing up, we're going up. And that was it. There was no real plan to it. It was, let's just see what the steering wheel wants to do when we go, and it took us up.
I like it. That's a great plan. And Barry, what sort of vibes are you running? Are you running baby vibes or?
Yeah, look, I run them quite a bit on the weekend, and they went really well. I switched out occasionally for a ZX35 blade and hooked up some good fish on that as well. But when we eventually got to a particular, Jared pulled out his little mussel and threw that, and that was just getting a fisher cast pretty much. I couldn't believe how good it was. I had one in a different colour, basically a cockle colour, and I quickly tied that on when I saw the success that Jared was having. And in that success, he pulled a 41 off a bank, just hit the water and banged straight on. So I was throwing a cockle-coloured one, exactly the same mussel, but I was getting about maybe 1 in 5 fish to Jared.
Right.
I just end up switching back to and running the vibes, the soft plastics and the blade for the rest of the day.
Yeah, right. Right. And Jared, the mussel, was that Callum's new little one?
Yeah, it was Dowley's, the little magic man's mussel.
Nice. It is slaying them over there, particularly in the West. There must be something about those systems.
Yeah, it's just like, I think it's the versatility. Like with Dowley's, you've got the big, the medium, obviously with the different weights, and then the new small one. I didn't even consider tying on the bigger mussel. I don't know, I didn't have the confidence in the bigger size, but like you can throw the small ones like the perfect weight. I think, don't quote me, but I think they're 3 grams. But
yeah.
you can throw the small one on bridges and banks and drop-offs, and just the versatility in them and the confidence you have when you tie it on. I think that's why they do so well. Like, I think, 90% of fishing is down to confidence in what you're throwing. And every time you tie one of those on, you kind of know that you're going to catch.
That is very cool. And tell me about this 41 centimetre fish that sounds like it should have got big brim but didn't quite measure up.
Yeah, it really underdone itself, actually. It was kind of disappointing. It actually, when I went through my culling and I'd weighed it and then put it in the live well, it had weighed a bit heavier, quite a bit heavier than what it weighed at the weigh-in. But yeah, 41 centimetres to be under a kilo, let alone under 900 grams, yeah, it was quite a shock. But it is a river typical of skinny fish, particularly when they get a bit bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bit of a bummer, but still it was good to have that anchor fish in that bag on day one particularly.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a good fish. Now, with regards to the bite, how are they taking it? Was it a lot of it hits the water and you hook up, or will you have to work it? How'd that look?
No, some were whacking, like some would pick it up on the drop, but typically I'd give it a shake, like rod tip down and a good little rattle of the rod tip for a couple of seconds. And then you could feel the brim grab it and shake it. So I could feel that all the way through my rod. And then it was just kind of a wind-on hook set. You didn't really need to strike at them. And they do have those very small trebles. So it's just a wind-on and just trying to get a nice, tidy hook set. On the most part, you'd have both of those trebles across their face or like across their mouth. And I don't think I pulled any hooks on fish with those little hooks.
Okay. For the day, like what sort of structure were you guys finding the fish on? What was the preferred banks, or, what were you looking for?
It was a bit of a mix, wasn't it, Barry? Like we caught fish on snags. I think where we found our most consistent bites were probably like the banks that had a bit of a longer drop-off. The drop-off in that system, goes from a foot down to about 14 or 15 metres in the most part, the space of about 2 metres. And then it dropped away. But where we had that longer, shallower bank, anywhere up to about a foot to a metre, was really where we got the bulk of our fish, wasn't it, Baz? And on sand.
Those yellowy, sandy sort of banks were really good. You're in there and you think you can see straight through the water and there's absolutely nothing there. And then the minute the lure hits the water, they're on. So,
right. And Barry, you mix it up a bit with some plastics as well.
Yeah, look, I got everybody in the comp got 50 or 100 fish a day, mostly small ones, and I was using the bloodworms slim swim, and that was getting a lot of fish, but it just wasn't getting the quality that we wanted.
Sure.
So I switched over to the Vibe, and that started picking up some good fish. And a little bit later in the day, it got really, really windy. The Vibe was struggling. The bow in the line was creating a bit of a problem. So I switched up to a black Vibe, a black blade, where I can sort of cast further and actually end up picking up some good fish as well. So that was pretty much my day.
And you guys obviously got a stack of fish. Was there any ones that you missed that hurt you?
I didn't get smoked once at all over the whole weekend. So, look, the way that the wind was blowing, there was a few bites you'd get where you get that big clunk and you go to wind up and try and get that slack in a hook set and then there's nothing there. So, debatable whether they were big fish or just good bite. But, yeah, no lost good fish that I know of.
Yeah, it's a hard one because they have comps where you go, I didn't even hook a big fish. And then you have another comp where you hook the big fish and you don't land it. I'm not sure which is worse.
Yeah, that's it. And I wasn't scared of losing any of my gear over the weekend, and I was throwing it in some pretty nasty stuff, and it just kept coming out. Like I was literally trying to lose gear and have my lures in some gnarly stuff, and it just kept coming out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is a good thing. And like you said, I think you said the big one came out pretty well. And actually, tell us about that fight, because we spoke just a fraction about that before, and I think it's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, like we spotted this bank about we're 150 metres away or so from it, and I don't think I'd tied on the muss yet, and I was fishing vibes and plastics and getting fish, but nothing really solid, and I ended up putting that mussel on in preparation of seeing this bank coming up. And so I fished the mussel on the way up to it, and I said to Baz, mate, we're going to get a 40 off this bank. Like, I'm calling it now. There'll be a 40 on that bank. And we got up to it, first cast onto that bank, clunk, 41. There was high fives all over the place, and that fish, like, it literally just swam straight at the boat. I nearly couldn't wind quick enough. Baz is rushing, trying to get the net. And I'm like, Baz, come on. Like, the thing's next to the boat, and then Baz jumps in with the net and scoops it up, and yeah, we've got our kicker in the boat. And that was about 10 a.m.
It just come basically almost floating to the boat, and it was so quick, just bang, float to the boat. And I looked down, and it was just laying in a perfect spot to be netted. By the time I'd sort of got my rod, dropped it down, found the net, grabbed it, and went back. He took one little run, which was that dangerous run.
Yeah.
Like, Jared was panicking a bit. But then he turned around, he comes straight back into the net, so it was pretty good. But, yeah, wasn't expecting a 41 to come to the boat like that.
No, I mean, you did say just before we started that Jared called it for a 40, but he was wrong because it was a 41.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It came in that easy that it actually kind of, I was a little bit worried because I've had instances where you get a big fish like that just kind of, sort of mosey on into the boat, and then they die in your well because they might be a bit sick or something. And it was kind of, I had that feeling. I was like, oh, wow, this was a bit too easy. But it come out of the well kicking super strong in the afternoon and had no scares with it during the day. So, yeah, maybe it was just being lazy that day.
Yeah. It's hard to know sometimes. They definitely have fish fights. Sometimes you go, I don't know how I got that in so easily.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. All right. And in terms of your day, was there anything else that's worth mentioning before we move off to Saturday?
Oh, have we mentioned how windy it was? It was just howling its guts out all day. We ended up pushing down, well, not right to the front of the system, but we moved from where we were at the top. We had a good bank that we just were like, let's leave that today too. And then, we went down and had a play at the front. It was just so windy. We ended up actually calling it a little bit earlier because, like, this is just blowing its butt off, and it can get a bit chaotic at the ramp there too, just being a single lane. So, like, look, let's get in, let's get the boat out and park up. And so that was about 20 minutes early. And, the wind was relentless all weekend. All
right. So that was enough to bring you 2.6, which looks like it would have had you in second place overnight. Does that sound about right?
Yep, second place.
Fair enough. All right. So what did you guys do in terms of preparation for the Sunday?
Well, that's an interesting one, actually, because I got my cockle. The main preparation, obviously, was just doing our leaders and so forth. I stayed pretty much with the same game plan. I got I had a couple of those cockled coloured musses, and so I got a texture pen, a chemi pen, marker pen, and I coloured it in black.
Yep.
And then I put it in the kit and left it there and thought, well, if Jared still has the same performance out of his today, I'll tie it on and see how we go. So that was pretty much my preparation. What about yours, Jared?
All right. So, Jared, what about yourself, mate? What did you do in terms of preparation on the Saturday night?
I actually had a really simple prep. I only used 2 rods really for the whole of day one. So I had 2 leaders to tie and a bit of a tidy up in the boat and a restack of the esky, and we were good to go.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Very good. And you had plenty of musses with you?
Well, I didn't have plenty. I actually had to dig into the front hatch, and nothing's organised in there. But I dug around and I found the only other spare one that I had in that black and gold. I had another one which was like a bit of a greenier colour, but I obviously had the confidence in the black and gold, so that's what went back on.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's move around to the Sunday morning. Tell us how your day went. Tell us about the first couple of fish you caught.
Day 2, actually, we got off to quite a quick start, didn't we, Barry? We had our bag by 7 o'clock. Yeah, so just with the light coming up a bit earlier and everyone being organised, we managed to get away a little bit quicker. But yeah, in the space of about half an hour, we had our bag again. Oddly enough, I obviously started throwing the muss straight away and I couldn't really get a bite on the muss early. They all come on vibes. What were you throwing, Baz?
Yeah, I was throwing the vibe exactly the same, switching up occasionally to the blade and a little bit to the plastic. But, yeah, the muss was really surprising. And I don't even think it was the muss. I think it was more the fact that we went straight back to the bank where you got the 41. It was just crickets, and even with the vibe, it was crickets. It wasn't until we got around that corner a bit that we started picking up some fish. So I don't think it was actually the fault of the muss. I think it was just the fact that the fishing moved on.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. And in terms of the 2 days, so was the bite different? Was it more subtle on the Sunday, or how'd that look?
It was a little bit quieter.
Yeah, I think it was a bit quieter, and it was probably, from memory, it was a little bit stiller for longer on day 2. But there was no shortage of fish. We were still catching bucket loads of fish, but just the size. I think day 2, the size was bigger first off the bat. We had a reasonable sort of bag pretty early, and then it was just chipping away at those 100 or 200 gram upgrades throughout the day. But yeah, it was definitely a more solid bag quicker on day 2. But yeah, it's just always working through those smaller fish in that system.
We got halfway through the morning, probably 9, I can't remember the time, 9:30, something like that. And Jared decided he was going to tie his muss on, and straight away he started going bang, 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 and then he was out fishing probably 4 fish to 1. So I thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to go get the muss that I'd coloured in with a marker pen. And Jared, as I was tying it on, he sort of calls out and says, "Hey, Baz, you better throw some scent on that," obviously the smell of the marker. So I put a little bit of Pro-Cure on it, smothered it around and threw it in the water, not hoping for the best, but not thinking it would make an improvement. First cast, bang, straight on. Second cast, bang, straight on. Third cast. And just got to the point that the Bream were just wearing the texture off and started showing the white cockle through again. So I had to sort of clean it up, put some more black marker on, and the bite dropped off in doing so. And then so I got the rag, cleaned all the scent off, gave it another coat, and put some more Pro-Cure back on, and bang, straight away the bite was on again. So they were definitely chasing black. Jared had black and gold, but I just had straight black. And it didn't seem to matter. We were sort of getting fish for fish. So it was a good result.
Nice. And look, from talking to a couple of the competitors, it was a pretty good fishing weekend, I'd say.
Yeah, historically what the Blackwoods produce, you always get a decent fish, but I think the average size, if you went back and looked at the data, probably would be a lot heavier than historical events that's in the last 5 years maybe. Yeah, it definitely fish well. Usually we get cursed with poor moon phases and poor tides, and this event, they were a lot better. It was just relentless wind.
Yeah, okay. All right. And throughout the rest of the day, was there any standout captures or changes or anything that helped you finish up with your bag?
I did start throwing a spike with the same mentality of I don't really care what I lose. And I was just throwing it over and into anything. And I did get one probably of the decent upgrades, which was literally come all the way out of the structure, and it was those spike. It was the XDRs, I think the extra deep. So they come in quite square to the boat, and they're still quite deep. And I ended up hooking this thing nearly under the boat.
Okay.
That was decent. No 40, but it was definitely one of the heavier fish. So that was a good upgrade for the bag and much needed, I think.
Right. And what colour were you liking? What colour spike?
Oh, it's like a smelt colour. I don't know the exact name of it, but it has that chrome belly and then that very natural top side.
Okay. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I think it's like a smelt.
All right. And for yourself, Barry, was that sort of the same? Was there any standouts in the back end of the day?
Oh, look, the standout was definitely although I do like the baby vibes and I do like the blades, it was quite a surprise how well Jared was fishing day one with that little muss. Replicated on day two, and straight away the performance picked up, 4-1, even to the very end. And it was a little bit of a shame, but I think it was probably the last second, third, fourth cast of the day. It was 12:30 or 12:40 or something. And I cast one, the little muss right up onto the bank and hooked. It was the first fish of the day that took drag, and I had it on for a second, yelled out to Jared, and just lost contact with the fish. But it was just interesting because I was cursing. It could have easily been a really big fish, which may have changed the result at the end of the day. And Jared sort of said to me, "Well, what happened?" And I said, "I just lost contact with it, and it's still got my lure and everything." And it wasn't until I never even checked it until this morning that I was just tidying up my lures and putting some new trebles on them. And I had a look at the muss that I was using, and it had a completely straightened one of the hooks. The swivel was just about completely open. Still there, but it was just one ring. So I didn't even realise, didn't even notice that at the time, but it might have been a really good fish, but that's the luck of the draw.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. What I like about that story is the change of colour with the texture, and it seemed to make a difference, obviously.
One of my standouts for that weekend was I thought that people catching fish on blades was a myth, so it was good to see firsthand that they do catch fish, because I don't own a single blade and I would never own a blade. I just can't do it. But it was good to see Baz catching fish on them. I think you could just about cast one of those blades from one river system to the next. They're bloody that heavy. And so, yeah, that was quite an experience to watch the quantity of fish that Baz could smash on those things.
Yeah, very good. And then before we move off the fishing, what sort of lines and leaders were you running for the comp?
I was using the Daiwa braid and the Daiwa. It's the Daiwa fluorocarbon in 5 pound. It's not like the X-Link stuff. It's the pink. It's that softer fluorocarbon that they use for straight through. So, yeah, I use the leader of that. I just find it ties better and it's just a lot more subtle.
Yeah, nice.
I was using pretty much the X-braid in 0.6, and for the leader I was using, I think it was the Daiwa as well, same as what Jared was using, but in the clear.
Nice. And what pound was that? What sort of size leader?
Pound, all weekend.
All right. I reckon that covers the fishing pretty well. It was enough to bring you guys back in second. So for the grand final, what did you guys get to take home for second place?
What did we get, Baz? We got 1,000 green ones.
1,000 green ones. We got a couple T-curve, 6.8 fish, quite nice, and some baseball caps and a bag full of lures and bits and bobs. So it's a good result for second.
Great result. All right. Well, last thing before we shoot off, guys, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Look, I think it goes without saying you got to get around the WATA guys that put the event on to start with. I know a lot of those guys, they all have full-time jobs, and this is like a bit of a side gig for those, because they share the passion around the tournaments too. So, it's good that they can get down and put the event on first and foremost. Like Tackle West, those guys always sort of look after me. Luke's really good, and they have just probably one of the biggest range of Bream lures in a tackle store in WA, I reckon, and that's across all their stores. So they really cover the guys over in WA. And who else? And then obviously Oryx Boats for building the boat that I've been running around like a madman in for this season. So, yeah, it's been exceptional, and, yeah, great boats. Yeah,
and I think, the sponsors obviously are what makes this possible for us. But as Jared touched on, was the guys that put these events on. Not only do they organise it all and have to put up with all the complaints and the problems and the issues and the insurances and what have you, but even on the day, they've got to get down early. They've got to set all the marquees up, get the bump tank going, get all the water and the chips and nuts and all the things they give out. But they've got to have all that done. And then at the end of it, everybody just hits the road because they all want to get home. It's a long way away. And then those guys are still there packing all that stuff up. So you got to take your hat off to them. They do a great job.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys. Congratulations for second place. It was nice to meet you both. And I'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
Thanks, Deethy.
No worries. Okay, so last week I spoke to you a little bit about travel rods, about having the ability to maybe be driving past your local waterway and in the back of your car having a backpack, which could contain a rod all rigged up, ready to go, but folded up into your tackle bag. And you can also have, the way these tackle bags are set up, the rod tube, you can have your reel all rigged up, ready to go. So all you've got to do is put that 5-piece rod together. It's got little dots on it to enable you to line it up perfectly without trying to look down the length of the rod, I guess. Anyway, I spoke to you about Jabbers Australia. So I did get out on Friday night last week and took the slack driver and my crossfire lures out on the kayak. So I use this as a normal rod. I actually don't pull it apart very often, and got myself a nice 68 or 69 centimeter flathead on the crossfire, which is very cool. Now, the thing with Jabbers, so if you look up jabbersaustralia.com.au, so I'm actually going to have to go back. I think I actually announced the website incorrectly last week. So jabbersaustralia.com.au, they've got a bunch of things there. So it's not just travel rods. They've got a whole heap of terminal tackle. So some of the stuff includes snaps, trebles, split rings, split ring pliers, assist hooks, all the way down to brim size. So from your offshore stuff down to brim size, how good is that? And as well as a whole bunch of other tackles, from hard bodies like little crankbaits through to stick baits, metal slugs, all sorts of stuff. For anyone that's interested, if you listen to the Bream Fishing Project, you're going to like some of this stuff. What we have done for you, the guys at Jabbers, they have given us a 10% discount. So if you go in and enter promotion code BREAM, BREAM, for a short time, we're going to have 10% off your order. So definitely check it out. If it's in your mind to have a look at it, now is the time. This is going to run for a month or so and be shut off at a date yet to be determined. So if you're interested, check it out. Now, I know they've got a couple of lures that particularly interested me in the brim side of things. Hopefully, I'm going to have a couple of those for Ben River. So if you're down there, definitely come over and see me. Anyway, in the meantime, jump over to jabbersaustralia.com.au. So jabbersaustralia.com.au. Check it out. Enter promotion code BREAM and get yourself some good gear for a little bit cheaper. How good's that? All right. So finally, in first place, we have Team Stinger. They dropped 4 fish for 2.770. Backed it up on the Sunday with 4 fish for 2.510, giving them 5.280. And the win, I have Alex Griesdorf and Ben Oaks. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Hey, Andrew. How you going?
G'day, Andrew. Thanks for having us.
No worries. Thanks for coming on. And just for the listeners out there, we have had no end of technical difficulties trying to get this started. So I'm really happy to be able to hear these guys. All right. Let's start with pre-fishing. Now, I know from our pre-chat that, Alex, you didn't really get to do much. So maybe, Ben, take us away and tell us a bit about what you did in preparation for this competition.
Yeah, so I'm pretty close to the Blackwood. I'm pretty lucky, so I got to fish it a fair bit. And yeah, I fished pretty much every area that I knew about and a bunch of new ones, and ruled out a lot of stuff, but found a fair few fish from the top end of the ski area down to about Malloy, and drew everything I could. And yeah, basically found a fairly good grub bite and also a good slim swim bite. I also got a couple on the mussel during pre-fish, but that didn't end up panning out come comp day. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
So if it sounds like that, you've done a pretty comprehensive pre-fish. In terms of leading into comp day, what, I guess based on that, you had slim swims and grubs tied on?
Yeah, so I had slim swims, grubs, and I had a dowley mussel, the large size, and I also had a brim prawn ready to throw as well. But it turned out it was fairly windy where we were fishing, so it didn't really work out too well.
And Alex, mate, what did you have ready to go?
Same as Ben, pretty much. I had some different colours. We both sort of decided we'd throw different colours to see what they were biting. I had Slim Sims and grubs, had a crankbait on, and what else do we have? What else did I throw? I did throw a little pygmy mussel around in one of Dowley's the little baby mussel, whatever he calls it, around as well. I didn't manage to get any of the fish that we weighed in pretty much on anything but grubs and Slim Sims.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Well, let's roll around to Cop Day. Whereabouts did you take off and how'd you start catching them?
Well, I'll lead in, I guess, because it was a bit of, I think we were boat number 4, so we pretty much had pick of the river where we wanted to fish. We made a decision to fish a spot that's kind of renowned to catch big fish off of, and funnily enough, the only thing that was there were herring. I think between me and Ben in the first, 20 minutes, what did we catch? 20, 30 herring or something like that, Ben?
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was so bloody annoying. I'm fairly certain we would have actually caught bream had the herring not get to our lures before the bream could get to them. But, yeah, we didn't really have anything for, the first 20 minutes, half hour?
Yeah, until we moved off that spot.
Right. So at this point, you guys are going, you're catching herring after herring, you're going, hey, man, we're going to win this one.
It's not a herring comp.
Fair enough.
They're such frustrating fish to catch, though, because when you get them on board, they just don't let up.
Right.
They just keep thrashing around.
Well, there you go. There you go. All right.
Bloody annoying.
Tell us about catching bream. How'd you get into it?
I think we just we started eliminating areas. So we just started kind of fishing down the areas that we wanted to fish and moving through the banks. And then we started just picking up fish. I think we pulled up on one little section and got our bag pretty much straight away, didn't we, Ben, when we moved onto that spot?
Yeah, as soon as we'd left the golden corner, we started picking fish up straight away.
Yeah, exactly that. And then, we sort of got one good fish off that spot, which was I think a 32 forker, which is it's a good fish for the Blackwood these days. And then we kind of just started moving around through the river, just hitting different banks and kind of picking fish up here, there on a variety of different banks. We I would say on Saturday, we probably ruled out more areas that we were fishing as well. They just didn't seem to have a lot of fish sitting on them. So we kind of kept sticking through the banks that we were looking for. We were pretty much looking for sort of tea tree banks with some reeds on them and stuff was pretty key. And funnily enough, the fish were actually really shallow. On Saturday, we saw quite a few fish digging up in the sand and digging up on the banks, which was quite interesting.
Yeah.
You actually saw like little plumes of sand and mud, which is quite interesting because the water is really clear. You could clearly see fish were digging. And we sort of just kind of looked for that stuff for the day and on our banks that we normally like to fish. And kind of just picked up fish here, there, all throughout the day. It's funny, I think I caught most of the fish in the morning. And then from like 12 o'clock, the wind was blowing its ass off. And Oaksy was the man in the afternoon. He was catching fish after fish after fish.
Right. Tell us about that.
I think it was just because boat control was so difficult and I was just in the back of the boat just concentrating on my lure rather than controlling the boat in the wind.
And between the two of you, like you're both running similar lures. Was there a colour, a standout, or?
It'd be bloodworm for sure, eh? Bloodworm?
Yeah, on Saturday, bloodworm was probably the standout.
That watercolour kind of changed though. Like when it got like a real silty green colour when the boats were messing it up. And then that was sort of more like a blood oil colour. Yeah.
Which was a pretty key thing. I've actually had it on the Blackwood before. You got to change the colours up a bit. I don't know if it's they see the same colour and then they're not interested in it. But I've had it before where you go down one bank and you're throwing a motor oil colour one, and then you go down another bank and you throw a bloodworm and they're eating the bloodworm and they're not touching the motor oil. So They're finicky like that sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah. Look, it's an interesting thing with bream fishing because there's a lot of times where I go, I don't think colour matters that much. But then there's times where I think it's really, really important. So I guess the trick is knowing when.
Yeah, 100%.
I reckon it's camouflage. I think sometimes you need to actually camouflage your lure.
Yeah, right.
So it's almost like not being able to see it as well is sometimes a good thing.
Yeah, okay. So they sense it and go, what's that? And eat it maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe they're just not, they can't see it as well, so they're not certain that it's a fake.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that's an interesting thought. For the day, like if you're fishing the shallows, what sort of jig head weights were you running?
Oh, we'd change. I had 3 different weights on. I think, Ben, you had, 2? Anything from 16 to an 8 we had between us?
I was probably mostly throwing 1/8 because I was from the back. But yeah, I think when it really sort of got a little bit calm there for a while, I was throwing 1/12, but nothing really that light.
Fair enough. With your bag, with your 2.77, when did you sort of do your last upgrade?
Oh, on Saturday. Shit, I reckon it was about 11:30, Ben, eh? 12?
Yeah, it was the first day. Yeah, there wasn't, towards the afternoon, there wasn't too many upgrades, was there? Second day, we got more in the afternoon, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, right to almost the death knot.
So you head back to the weigh and you've got 2.77. You've got an idea, you've got a reasonable bag. What were you guys expecting? Were you expecting to be in first place or was not really?
Nah, no, not at all. I said to Ben when we pulled up, I said, I think we're not out of it, but I don't think we're going to be leading it. And funnily enough, we were. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And leading it, not with a big margin, but a margin.
Yeah.
All right.
The thing was, though, that I noticed with our fish, we didn't have any monsters, like nothing even close to 40, but they were all really thick fish and they were all about the same size. Both days, really.
Yeah, because that's a little bit in contradiction to what the other guys got. They had some skinny fish. It's interesting that you say that.
Both days when you looked into the bags, it was almost difficult to see the bigger one, even though we had a small, like a kicker both days. The other 3 fish that were with them were still substantial.
And you were saying, Alex?
Yeah, there's different classes of fish on the Blackwood. If you're fishing, it's supposed to be the same over east. You're fishing up in the shallow flat. Sometimes those fish can be a bit fatter than other ones because they're up feeding pretty heavily. So, yeah, we were pretty lucky. Most of our fish, were pretty chunky fish. They probably had an extra 50, 100 grams on top of some of the other guys' same size fish just because the locations where they were living.
Yeah, they're probably eating all those herring.
I think the herring might have been eating the bream.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right, let's move forward. So on the Sunday, was there a change to your game plan or, you said that you'd ruled out a bunch of spots?
We did. We started in the exact same spot, to be honest.
The Golden Bend?
We started in the same spot. I don't know if that was a mistake or at the end of the day, it's a good spot potentially to get a big fish. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Had we caught a 40 there one of the days in the morning, it's a pretty substantial kicker to start your day. So it's worth a crack. We weren't really too worried about fishing all of our other spots that we knew that we wanted to fish because there wasn't really that many people fishing around them for the Saturday. So we were pretty confident if we pulled up there for 20 minutes and we didn't catch anything, we could move on. And that's exactly what we did. I don't think we even had a legal off that, did we, Ben?
No. The Golden Bend, no.
No, and then we went to a different spot and got a bag in, 10 minutes? We literally had a double hookup at one stage. It was pretty funny.
Nice.
All the spots that we'd caught fish on the day before, they were like spots that weren't really high profile. Not that many people really fish them. They weren't spots that you'd race to. So it didn't bother us at all. Even once we fished the Golden Bend, didn't get anything, we were like, we'll just move on to the next spot, the next one, and the next one. We had probably 6 or 7 spots that we got fish from the day before. So
yeah, right. Okay. So then you moved on to the next spot. You filled your bag. How did you go about upgrading?
Remember we got that double hookup?
Yeah. Well, we went to the next spot and we quickly got a bag of like 27 tippers, like just small fish. And then I hooked up. I'm like, oh, Ben, this is a better one. And Ben's like, yeah, I'm on one as well. This is a good one too. And I'm like, oh, shit, okay. So we ended up netting both those fish. And it was I think one was like a 29 fork and one was a 31 forker. And so they upgraded to like 27 tippers simultaneously, which was pretty good. And we sort of really just did the same thing, ran around to different spots and fished the same way. We got another kicker in the morning off a spot that we didn't fish the day before. But after that fish, we really didn't have that great of a bag going into the middle of the morning, lunchtime sort of thing. We sort of upgraded. We did two pretty good upgrades late in the day in the last 45 minutes, Ben?
Yeah, that was a pretty good bite towards the end of the day. It's fun.
Yeah, it was weird. The Saturday we didn't catch any good ones later in the day. And then on the Sunday, they sort of came on that last hour and we got a bunch of fish and then we got two good upgrades, which obviously sealed the deal. Although I think we probably would have been all right without them anyways, but would have been a bit closer.
Yeah, right. While you were talking, I was looking at the bite periods and the tide. So on the Sunday, you had a minor bite period at 10:52 a.m. through to 12:22, but probably more telling, I've got the low tide at 12:49. So, basically 1 o'clock. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There was flow.
It was a bit weird. They were both spots that we'd hit earlier in the day, and we literally caught nothing off them earlier in the day. But the key, I think, was when me and Ben were talking about it afterwards, when we started catching them, is the water was all stirred up by the ski boats. So like the edge of the bank had a lot of silt around on it. So like it was not clear.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the past, we've done pretty well fishing banks with the ski boats, stir it all up. So yeah, I think they go up and feed because it thrashes around in the bank and knocks prawns and bait fish out. And then they just kind of patrol on the edge, waiting to see what they find in the dirty water.
It's like similar to cloud cover as well, cuts the light levels. Because it was full sun both days, all day.
And blowing about. The wind at Camden?
Yeah.
It was windier than that.
Right. Ouch.
I think it was 30 knots most of the day, Ben? 25 to 35 knots?
Yeah. It was good, though, because if we didn't have that wind, we wouldn't have caught many fish.
Nah, it would have been really tough.
Wow. Well, that is interesting. In terms of the structure and what have you, were you basically casting at edges or what were you sort of looking for?
Yeah, exactly that, the edge. That's pretty much, we would have caught, Ben, all of our fish less than a metre of water? 2 meters, a metre and a half? Yeah.
Yep, and some of them were close to little bits of structure in that when it was a bit calmer, I guess. And then, once the wind picked up and it was all silty, they were just out everywhere.
Yeah, right. On day one, I think we had the bloodworm and maybe the mud oil. Was that similar for day two?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think we put any fish in the well on a grub on day two, but I think, what did I get that bigger one on day two on, Ben? That was blood oil, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was blood oil. It's hard to tell. Blood oil and bloodworm, they're very similar colours too. Just that bit more green, the brighter one.
Ben was throwing a green one that he got off of. Where'd you get that from, Ben? It's like a fake, isn't it?
Yeah, Sean. You can get a fake green slim swim. It's like the same colour as the grub, the watermelon grubs.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like a fairly good colour. Z-Man should make it.
Fair enough.
Well, they already make it. They just don't make it in the slim swim.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. In terms of the fishing, is there anything else that's worth mentioning? Did you lose any that in the time you went, I needed that?
Yeah. Both of us.
Yeah, on Saturday. We both managed to lose bigger fish than we had in the live well, that's for sure. Bigger fish than our biggest ones on both days. Yeah, they were
Really?
high 30s to a 40, probably both of them. What do you reckon, Ben? Yeah?
Yeah, they were up there. But both of them did almost exactly the same thing. They come up to the surface, gave us a big look at them right near the boat, and then just shook their heads and went swimming off.
Really?
So, yeah, I didn't set the hook properly on mine. So I went to set the hook and it was at a really bad angle because it picked up one scale and then moved along, picked up another scale. And then those two scales were basically just before the barb. So then it never went in, it never penetrated.
Ouch. Ouch. So you basically got two scales instead of a kilo bream.
Yeah. And then my one was just, I think my one was more so because of the wind and being on the lecky. I sort of hooked it. We saw it roll and I turned the lecky in the wind out away from the bank because I knew it would run up. I'd take a run. And when I did that, I changed my rod angle. And at that time, it shook its head and that was it. See you later.
All over Red Rover.
Which is weird because normally when you hook the bigger fish, they stay hooked. They don't tend to, you don't tend to have that problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Why I say it's interesting, at that point in time, you were like, did we just lose the comp? Clearly not.
Well, we definitely probably should have had a half a kilo more in our bag, I reckon, if not more, on day one.
But we just shrugged and just kept fishing, though. It wasn't like it affected us much.
Yeah, it's probably the best way.
One good thing about the way me and Ben fish is even if one of us loses a fish, we don't sit there and dwell on it. We know we're both frustrated by it, but there's no point to bitch and moan and complain about it. We do fish really hard, and I think that's one really good aspect of the team that we do together. We'll, on an 8-hour session of fishing, besides us running from spot to spot, I think our lines are in the water 99% of the time. So we work really well as a team like that. It's good.
Yeah, that's good. That is really good. All right. Last thing before we move off the fishing, what sort of leaders I can't remember they asked this, what sort of leaders we run for the comp?
I was running 4-pound FC Rock leaders, and my main line is Taz line in the 0.6 size. Yeah, I've been running the Taz line for a few years. I'm pretty impressed with it. It's good braid.
Yeah, I think they've got some new ones coming out too, I think. So very good. All right, let's get round. So for first place in the grand final, what did you guys get to take home?
Was it 1,500 cash and a Lowrance FS9 sounder?
I got a FS9 sounder, and I just purchased 2 of them like 2 months before that. Yeah.
So now he's got 3.
Yep.
Yeah,
nice.
That was a little bit unfortunate.
Now you got 3. Yeah. Well, fortunate and unfortunate, but yeah.
But my missus wasn't too happy. She was giving me a hard time about it.
I thought it would be for her. She'd have her sounder.
Christmas present.
100%. 100%. All right. Well, that sounds pretty good to me. All right. So I guess, look, the last thing before we shoot off is there anyone that you guys want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Oh, look, just all the sponsors for the Wata series. They can't get enough thanks from the guys that run the events, and obviously us winning comps and stuff like that. The crew look after me. I mean, Lowrance, they always look after me with electronics and that on my boat and that. So pretty stoked with that. And the crew at Z-Man hooked me up with Z-Mans and stuff like that whenever I need them. So Tackle Tactics, and they give them a plug.
Yeah, I'd like to thank just the WATA organisers. This year's been really good. The media coverage has been particularly good this year as well. All the media stuff's been really great. Yeah, I think that sort of stuff's a big deal. Also, the sponsors. One of my favourite rods now is a Steve Duff rod, which I won, I think, last year. So that was the rod I was throwing the grubs on. And another one of my favourite rods is a Daiwa EX Infeet 742, I think it is. And I think Tackle West provided that one a few years before that as well.
Yeah, that's very good. It's good to see those rods going around and people enjoying them.
And just to add to that, Andrew, I think what you're doing is brilliant as well, mate. So I think we talked about it when we were over in Camden Haven a few weeks ago. Mate, I think it's a brilliant idea with the podcast like that. And, mate, keep putting in the hard work and doing them, because I think everybody who listens to them enjoys them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
It seems to be a very good resource, especially for people coming from over east to fish over here as well, and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, that's absolutely fantastic. Look, congratulations on the grand final. It's a great win, especially with your mates. So thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you guys next year, no doubt.
No worries, Andrew. Cheers.
Thanks, Andrew. See ya.
Okay, so there you have it, everybody. That wraps it up for the Western Australian Tournament Series for 2024. Good to see Alex come out on top. He's had a great year, and it was a very fitting win. So well done to Alex. And Ben, sorry, Ben, as I was recording that, I forgot who was with him. But Alex and Ben taking it out, and yeah, a couple of great interviews there. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to sign out. I look forward to running through the Western Australian Tournament Series for 2025 coming soon. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow on the Bream Fishing Project.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you were informed, inspired, and entertained. If you were able to learn something or just enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing and rate us on your favourite podcasting platform.